Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All things Middle-earth here with a video looking at how to counter the Mûmakil. So stay tuned, we're going to look at 5 commanders that do an excellent job against this terrifying troop in the Lord of the Rings: The Rise to War. Okay, before we break down the different commanders we're going to look at, first of all, there's going to be a spreadsheet linked down below. Very simple, but just an easy reference. So if you want to look at the different commanders that we're talking about today, what skills you have for them, and if there are any notes on like what different troops you might want to use with them, that is all going to be linked below, and I'll have that. I'll be referencing that throughout the video. So today I want to look at 5 different commanders that are going to do a great job against the Mûmakil. But before we look at the commanders, we're going to look at the Mûmakil itself and why it is such a good troop, and some things I want to note that I think are going to be good to understand as you go about trying to deal with these guys. But number one I want to bring up is the cost and the time associated with this troop. So we're going to look at counters today, and for the Mûmakil specifically, a lot of other troop types or commanders, there are really hard counters that will just wipe out entire armies. For the Mûmakil, we're not necessarily going for wiping out the entire army, although we'll see some screenshots that are pretty solid. But the idea is that you just want to spend less resources than your opponent that's using the Mûmakil. So again, they are 1 unit per command. They take an hour per command there, so they take a long time to conscript, and they're expensive. So if you can take out half of an army or even a quarter of an army or whatever with a much cheaper army, then that's really a win, at least in my book. So some of the counters we're going to look at are really good, and you definitely get a win against them. Like, you lose less troops than they lose. But sometimes you're going to see some things where you might at first glance think, I don't know if that's a win. But the reality is, if you're spending a lot more resources and a lot less time, and you're taking out good chunks of the Mûmakil, that is an absolute win against these guys. Because eventually you're going to wear your enemy down. They won't have any more to use, and then you're going to have the advantage if you can at least last that long. So that's one note about the Mûmakil. The next thing I want to note is just kind of how they're used, because if you've not used them or come up against them before, you may not know. But they're not used because they themselves are really high damage troops. They have 1,200, 1,500 damage, which is a large range. But again, you have to remember they're 1 unit per command, whereas a lot of other things in the game are 100 or 50 per command. So if you divide these numbers out, like what they would be equivalent to if there were 100 per command, if you divided this by 100, it's quite a bit lower. So we're not looking at the Mûmakil because they're a high damage troop. The big thing is just their survivability. And so they've got a ton of HP, and usually they get paired with heavy damage dealing commanders like Lotr. If you're playing, depending on what kind of server you're playing on, they might be paired with someone like Legolas. But again, they do best with commanders that do damage themselves, because commander damage scales with the amount of troops you have in your command. So the more command you have, the more damage you're going to do. And so for a commander like Lotr, who's probably the most popular use with Mûmakil, he's going to deal more damage for longer periods of time with Mûmakil, because they're going to stick around for a longer period of time because they're so tanky and allow him to just take everything out. So that's kind of how they are used. So I wanted to cover that before we jumped into the specific commanders that we're going to look at. But with the kind of preface out of the way, looking at the Mûmakil here, let's go ahead and jump over to the spreadsheet and our first commander. All right, the first commander is one of my favorites. I actually recently just did a video on how to counter the Witch King, and I just find it ironic that he is going to be one of the counters for Mûmakil. But the Witch King with Alchemist is going to be one of the best, if not the best, counters to go up against the Mûmakil. The fire damage that the Alchemist put out with Ring Wraith, that's going to allow them to deal extra, or the enemy to receive extra burn damage, paired with something like Convener that allows them a really strong chance to get follow-up in the first 2 rounds, makes it a very viable option. Because again, the faster you can take out the Mûmakil, the less damage Lotr is going to do. So if in the first 2 rounds my Alchemists attack 2 times, their ability already has them dealing, I think, 300% fire damage, and then we're going to add a 30% that the enemies receive here. It just gets kind of crazy, not to mention the stun's pretty helpful here as well. So it's got a solid build. This is a pretty standard Witch King build. Again, that's going to be in the spreadsheet as well, so you can know for your reference. Again, this video is specifically looking at how to counter, or who counters Mûmakil. It's not going to be a Witch King guide. We're not going to do a deep dive on every character we cover. So check the spreadsheet if you want more concise information on it, or jump in the Discord, which is linked below if you have questions about it. But again, very quickly put, this is Witch King is going to be a fantastic counter for that. And you're going to look at running Alchemists with ideally some other kind of a tank like Trolls. So Trolls, Corsairs, and Alchemists, heavy on the Alchemists is going to be really popular option where you're going to do really, really good damage against the Mûmakil. Now, I've got a couple different screenshots for the Witch King. This one, the army comp was primarily composed of alchemists and berserkers, so not even trolls or anything. But the build here is pretty much the same. The gear is solid purple gear, but it's against this Aragorn here with a full stack of 75 of the Mûmakil. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, it was a defeat. He lost units, or they lost all of their units for the Witch King. But again, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes even getting a defeat against the Mûmakil can still be a win because of the amount of Mûmakil that was taken out in this fight. Resource-wise and time-wise, the Witch King really, really took the win here. I wanted to interject really quick during editing with some troop cost analysis because I mentioned in this video that you're not really looking to beat these full stacks of Mûmakil. You're just wanting to basically beat the amount of resources and time spent on these troops. And so I put this together on a spreadsheet just for myself to kind of visualize, and I decided I would go ahead and make this available in the description as well. So if you want to use this sheet and kind of plug in your own numbers, all you got to do is go to the description. It'll be called Troop Cost Analysis. You go to File and click Make Copy, and then you'll have your own copy of this that you can name whatever you want, and you can put in your own values. Now, for me, the values I put in here, you put in the command of each of the troops. So this is in the previous example we were looking at with the alchemists and the berserkers. You got 19 command of two different troop types and 42 command of the alchemists. The resource cost for each of those troops respectively, followed by the time per command. For me, since I have my stuff all the way upgraded, it's only 15 minutes per command, but the time can kind of change depending on where you're at in the game. If you have everything maxed out, there are going to be some reductions on that. But basically what you want to do is you want to look at these reports where it shows the amount of wounded and dead. And even like this one right here that I'll put up on the screen, you can see that this report, this was a Witch King versus a Legolas with Mûmakil, killed 36 Mûmakil, not wounded, not just taken into battle, actually gone. So 36 Mûmakil you're going to see is going to be a total resource cost of just over 1.1 million total resources. And this is 18 hours. It's 18 hours to conscript or to hire 36 Mûmakil. So that is the cost for the Mûmakil with the ones that are lost. And assuming you lost every troop, which is not always the case by any means, but in some reports that you do lose a lot. But even if you lost everything, this would assume just total cost of your army. You can see here that the total cost right here in this green box here, 733,000. That is the total resource cost for this entire army. And then the time, it's 5.25 hours at the most because these other ones are less than that. So if you were conscripting this entire army on the right side, it would take you 5.25 hours and 733 resources for the entire army compared to 18 hours and 1.15 million resources. So again, if you want to use this, you can. You have to have a kind of a basic understanding of Excel because it does get kind of tricky with the formulas. At least I feel like when I start moving stuff around too much, I kind of break the sheet sometimes. But again, very basically, if you have these different troop comps, you can put in their values here. The time can kind of be tricky again, depending on what you have your buildings upgraded to. If you have anything in your ring perks that you've started into. But for the most part, it'll give you a pretty good idea. And you could see if you go into battle and let's say you only kill 5 Mûmakil, you can see that it only takes 2.5 hours to make 5 Mûmakil. And here's the resource cost. So you can see we're in the red now for the total resource cost and the time. You want to look at the highest time value because obviously it's less than these two, but you want to look at the total time cost that your army took to fully complete. So if you only took out 5 Mûmakil in this example, we'd be in the red. So, but in that Legolas one I showed you, again, that was 36. You can see that that's a pretty good option there. And then obviously there are even better ones that you might see where you get up into the 40s or 50s, where you can see that, again, a full stack of Mûmakil is going to run you 2.4 million. So you can see the total army comparison here, but obviously you really want to look at ideally killed and wounded possibly, but definitely killed as a kind of like for sure stat. So just wanted to throw that in there because I wanted to make sure to back up what I was saying in terms of the analysis. So back to the video. And as you'll see in this one here, there are a lot of situations where not only will you take the win and take out a bunch, you're also going to not be completely knocked out. So here you can see another option where this one I believe had 65 in the command. So I'm trying to look at only really high command, if they had as close to 75 as possible. But again, here you can see this one with some crushers, some berserkers, and alchemists doing fantastic work, taking out a really good number of the Mûmakil. Definitely a win there for the Witch King. Here's one again with the Witch King with the Corsairs, the alchemists, again, over 4,000 alchemists and then 41 trolls there. And again, a defeat technically, but the amount of Mûmakil taken out here far and away makes this battle a victory for the Witch King, because the amount of resources and time needed to replenish the Mûmakil as opposed to the units in the Witch King's army is a huge difference. So again, some very good stuff from the Witch King. He's one who's going to take out some extremely large stacks and do a very good job. Again, this is a Lurt with 74 in the stack, and he just has no problem with it. I mean, he had a little problem because he got defeated, but again, you got to look at the resource trade-off, and the Witch King definitely wins there. So he is our first counter and a fantastic choice, but obviously a tier 3, so I'm going to try and look at some more options that are going to be a little bit more affordable for you if you maybe don't have a Witch King lying around. Now, these really aren't in any particular order, although I did say Witch King was one of my favorite, and I do think he is. But this next one is going to be Kaldun. Kaldun's a fantastic option because he's a tier 1 commander. So anytime these tier 1 commanders can punch up and do things against really good units or really high tier commanders, I think that's fantastic, because that means if you're free to play, this is a guy you can get. Again, the build is going to require R5, and you're going to need the best evil men you can get your hands on. But again, the idea is kind of similar to the Witch King here. You're going to run Marshal of the Eastmark with the Easterling trees as maxed out as possible in both of these. And so Marshal of the Eastmark and then going into Travel Tactics is going to give your evil men a chance to gain follow-up 25%. So it's less than the Witch King's chance, but it's for the entire time. So this can be a little bit more dependent on RNG. But again, you want those evil men, you want them to hit as much as possible and take that out. Then you're also going to go into Quicksand here, and then followed by all the trees in the bottom R1 here. So that's going to be the build for Kaldun. And for the build, again, I saw a couple different compositions here. But again, basically your best evil men you have in about equal thirds. It's all a lot of war chariots, corsairs, stuff like that. So I'll put a few reports up on the screen. But as you can see here, this battle went absolutely amazing with this Kaldun up against a Legolas with a 73 Mûmakil in the command there. And as you can see, decent losses by Kaldun. But again, the trade-off here resource-wise and time-wise far and away goes to Kaldun in this one. This is another one where you can see the same Kaldun here. Again, this one has a little bit less credibility because there's not as many Mûmakil in the march there. So again, I'm trying to keep the largest ones in here, as you can see, but just so you can see the troop comp again and what that looks like in this one. He can definitely do some serious work against the Mûmakil, and this time going with Legolas. He did a fantastic job. Okay, our next 3 commanders we're going to look at are going to be good commanders, and they're going to be tier 2 or lower, so no more tier 3s here. And the first one we're going to look at is going to be Theodin. Now, Theodin can be an excellent Mûmakil counter, and it's really good because he's already a very, very excellent counter. So at tier 2, there's really no reason you shouldn't be going for this guy. Again, depending on who you have available to you, if you can get your hands on Theodin, he's fantastic. But you're going to run Theodin with his R5 tree. So you're going to run max points into Rohirrim, Aered Leader, and Horsemaster. And then probably the next thing you want to max out is going to be Chaotic Retreat, followed by any of the adjacent skills that are just going to complement the mounted troops. So mounted combat can be very good, as well as riding excellence as secondary ones. But primarily Rohirrim, Aered Leader, Horsemaster maxed out. Those are going to allow your mounted units to do all the work for you. In terms of troop compositions you're going to run, I saw a pretty wide variety of different ones. So you just want to take equal thirds. I saw Cataphracts and Ram Riders a lot. I do believe with Ram Riders, with their special ability, they're going to give defense down. So I think they can be a really good one for that. And then Bow Knights. I've also seen stuff with Bree Riders. I've seen stuff with Swan Knights. I don't really think you can go wrong here if you just have equal thirds of tier 3 or better for the different troops here. But as you can see with this report, this is a Theodin going up against a Legolas with 75, a full march of Mûmakil. And again, he did absolutely fantastic. This one was like actually close to, in terms of like the amount of command loss, was actually close to a tie. But again, looking at the resources, yes, mounted troops are expensive, so do keep that in mind. This one is not like as cheap as some of the other counters we've seen. All right, really quick, last time I interrupt myself here, I want to show some more analysis on the Theodin build here, because mounted troops can get very expensive. So you can see here the 20 Mûmakil lost up here in the Mûmakil cost side. And then these are the command that was lost by Theodin. So I put in all the costs of those units, the time. These times are based off of the stables that are fully upgraded. So you can see resource-wise, Theodin actually lost more resources here than the Mûmakil did. But time-wise, it's still about half the time to conscript these mounted troops. So again, you can take this one how you want it. I would still consider it a win. Way later in the season, some of these resources may not be as big of a deal. But if this is, one of the first big battles you're getting into and you still are really managing your resources, this difference, could be a big deal to you. So just wanted to point out, again, this is going to be linked down below. Someone check my math on this because I'm kind of, been looking at this for a little while, and I'm thinking I'm going crazy, but I'm like 99% sure that everything's adding up correctly here, and you can see that the cost for Theodin's build is just slightly more expensive than the 20 Mûmakil that were killed in that last example. Here's another one with Theodin, a little bit less. I think this was 63 on the command, so still pretty high up there. But this one had Cavaliers instead of the Bow Knights, I believe. But again, Theodin's not getting completely wiped out. He's taken out a very good portion of the Mûmakil. This is fantastic here. So Theodin's definitely a very good option for countering the Mûmakil with their damage-dealing commanders. One last one for Theodin here, and then we'll move on to the next one. But again, the same troop comp we just looked at. This is 75 Mûmakil with Lurts here. And again, as you can see, this is just absolutely fantastic here. So Theodin, very tried and true, can be an excellent. I think he's one of the best good commanders in the game. So the fact that he can stand up pretty well against the Mûmakil is very nice there. So that's Theodin. Okay, the next commander we're going to look at is going to be Gimli. Now, I was really surprised by this one just because I don't see Gimli talked about a ton. But I do think he is a fantastic tier 2 commander and someone definitely worth going into as well. But the thing that was really nice about Gimli is that there are a couple of troop comps you can run with him that I think are far and away cheaper than Mûmakil. And I'll show you those in just 1 second. But with Gimli here, you're going to run Experienced Warrior with Durin's Blood. Both of those skill trees, the R1 and the R3 skill trees, maxed out as much as you can. And then any extra points you can go into Lord of the Glittering Caves and the adjacent skills here. So it depends on the respect you have him at. And the level, obviously, I mean, again, a lot of these battles taking place with Mûmakil, it's going to be a little bit later in the game. So ideally, you've got very close to 50, if not 50, for your leveled commanders. But you're going into Experienced Warrior and Durin's Blood. And as you can see here, this is 2 different options. Number 1 here was an army full of Guardians. Now, again, obviously, about only half of the Mûmakil got taken out. But Guardians priced time and resource-wise to Mûmakil is a ridiculous difference. So right here, you can see that was fantastic. And then very similar, but even a little bit better result here was the Guards of the Tower. So again, just 1 troop type, and Gimli literally, I think, took the win here, like percentage-wise of how much command got knocked out. So again, that's that Gimli there. A pretty simple build. The gear on this one wasn't ridiculous either. Again, in the one sent in, he had Durin's Blood and Experience War all that maxed out, and then I think 8 more points. So he had 4 into Glittering Caves, with 2 in each of these. So it wasn't like it was a crazy, out of this world Gimli. But with that 1 troop type, again, these damage dealing commanders deal more damage the longer and the more command they have around. So you take in these Guardians or these Guards of the Tower that are a little bit more tanky, and they're able to do a lot of damage. So in this instance, Gimli was able to get the upper hand here and take out the Lurts. So I think Gimli can be a very, very fantastic option. And just in case you're wondering what the cost breakdown is for the Guardian or the Guards of the Tower armies that we ran with Gimli, this example I have in here is the Guardians. So the Mûmakil lost 30 command dead of Mûmakil. The Guardians lost 44 command that were dead and gone. These are the values for their resources. It is 10 minutes per command once you've got all the max upgrades for buildings and whatnot. So you can see the total resource cost for the army that Gimli was running, and it's the same resource cost and time for both of them because averaged out they have the same amount of resources. So for either of those armies, you're looking around half the cost of the Mûmakil put in there, and an even smaller fraction of the time spent to conscript or hire those troops. So Gimli or any commanders that you can make work with these single stack, like just tanky units like Guardians or Guards of the Tower, is absolutely fantastic because not only are they performing really well, but they're actually taking a huge win on the resources, which is really where you're going to see the difference, like in a long-term war that you're having with the faction. So, all right, the last counter. And the last one is probably one of my favorite commanders in the game, and that is Dwalin. Now, Dwalin just keeps surprising me. Again, he's a tier 1 commander, so a lot more accessible. I do think for the tier 1 commanders, they do require a little bit more points to get going. So for Dwalin especially, he is going to be needed at a little bit higher respect, I think, from what it looks like here. Because in the suggestions here for the build, it was same as Gimli, Experienced Warrior with Durin's Blood maxed out. Both of those trees, all of them maxed out. And then also going into Warrior of the Lonely Mountain with the Giant Slayer, because it's going to give it's going to give Dwalin some extra damage against the giant units here. So this build here, I saw a couple of different troop comps. There were some with just like mounted troops, like a Theodin type of build. There were some all Eagles. I honestly think you could also run the all Guardians or all Guards of the Tower as well with Dwalin and probably see pretty good results. But again, right here you can see a full march of Mûmakil, 75 and Dwalin does fantastic right there. And then here's another one where it looks like there was just a little bit of reinforcement here. So this is basically full eagles here, which again, it is expensive, but you do get a pretty good trade-off here for it. So there's going to be, again, you have to kind of weigh the costs here of what you have access to. But this one with eagles specifically seriously kicked the Mûmakil's butt there. So that was very nice. And I do honestly think, just like we saw with the Gimli previously, that you could probably run all guardians or all guards of the tower and probably get pretty good use out of Dwalin as well. Because again, he's got a lot of commander damage skills paired with Warrior of the Lonely Mountain to get some of that physical damage reduced, and then Giant Slayer to add a little bit more going up against the Mûmakil. They're even in the picture there, so it's kind of meant to be. But he can be a fantastic counter, and one that I like because he is tier 1, so it's not like all these counters are tier 3. Other than the Witch King, everyone's tier 2 or below. So again, hopefully you've got one of these that you can run to stand up to the Mûmakil, which can be quite the menace at times. But that is going to do it for our video on how to counter the Mûmakil. I went a little bit rapid fire here because I had a lot to cover and I wanted to get it into a shorter video. So again, the spreadsheet with all this information is going to be linked down below. It's just a quick reference guide so you can see which commanders I talked about and what skills you'd want to stat into to make these things work, as well as what troops to use with them if they were commanders that relied on a specific troop type. So that's all linked down below, as well as the Discord. So if you ever want to join the Discord and just ask a question, maybe you're coming up against these guys and you just wanted to ask, hey, these are the commanders I have. What can I do? We may, there may not be a great option, but there's a lot of really helpful people over there that will definitely try and help out if you're struggling against these Mûmakil here. So that's all linked down below. Again, huge shout out to the Discord because this is all possible because of everyone in the Discord. Again, as you can see in this season specifically, this is my new season on season 3. I'm nowhere near Mûmakil. It's early in the season. I don't know if people over here have Mûmakil yet. And on my evil account, I'm up here in Angmar in the top corner of the map. So I don't have access to Mûmakil right now. And so I totally am relying here on people in the community bringing this footage and these screenshots and these theories forward. So thank you to everyone who has been a part of these conversations with this video and our Witch King counter video because they were definitely only possible because of everyone over there who was super helpful. So again, Discord's linked down below if you want to join the community, and the spreadsheet is as well, so you can look at that and see what your best options are. But that is going to do it for me in this one, and I will see you all in a future video.